Good day, everybody. 29th of June 2023, and of course I'm in Minsk. But of course I might be going to Baranovichi sometime in the near future. But anyway, so what is it? Thursday today, and well, you know, all the news coming out now. You know, I didn't really want to make a video in the past couple days. Even though there was some very good news. Alex Christoforo did a very good job on those things that I also was going to talk about. So let's just leave it at that. And I have to watch out for somebody here. And what's the newest thing? You know, I don't want to really talk so much about this Prigozhin thing anymore. Everybody's coming out with all kinds of predictions and things like that. Annie Akay, hers was kind of good, though. I have to admit that. It was something, a different angle that a lot of people didn't talk about. But otherwise, everybody's talking about treason and coup d'etat, which those are the two words I would leave out. You can put in about any other kind of word you want, but not those two words. You know, but you can say insurrection. And like I said, I'm not trying to make excuses or anything for Prigozhin. Lucky, like I said, he's lucky he didn't get the death penalty or something, like that he didn't get his convoy destroyed. Look at this old place. It's fascinating. This is actually pre-World War II. A lot of these are places that were not destroyed during World War II by the Germans. You know, I'm in an area where a lot of it was. I think it was, what, 85% of Minsk was destroyed, or was it the country? No, it was 85% of Minsk. And actually the Germans were quartered in a lot of these buildings, so you can bet there were German soldiers living in that building during World War II. As a matter of fact, my apartment, German soldiers lived in there as well. Okay, but I think, as far as I'm concerned, some of the most important news that's been going is that the USA is really seeking to get a war going for some reason. And you can look at it however you want. My side is I'm trying to see any other possible reason, but you know, there has to be some big reason. Why does the United States really want to start a war? But first I should probably tell you where they're trying to start wars. As you know, they're escalating that in Serbia, and it's very close there. And not only there, I think I mentioned already in a video that they were trying to get Georgia to attack Abkhazia this time rather than South Ossetia like they did before with Saakashvili during the time of George Bush. Remember when it was the Olympics and Putin wagged his finger at Bush because while they were there and old George Bush was buddying up to Putin, in the meantime they were stabbing him in the back, Bush, and attacking South Ossetia, where the vast majority of the people there are Russian, ethnic Russians. They've taken over just about everything that isn't Russian, ethnic Russian, I think, the West. You know, they're still working on a few places down there, like maybe Armenia and all that, but you know how that works. And they're even trying to get all the places that are ethnic Russian. You know, Ukraine was kind of mixed. I'll get into that a little bit more. You can't ever get tired of talking about Ukraine. There's always some kind of material there. But also, maybe before I get into these sort of things, you know, where the U.S. is trying to get these conflicts going against Russia, to try to get a multi-front war going against Russia. You know, the big goal, of course, is Russia, and then, of course, after that will be China. Everybody knows that. You know, Russia knows that, China knows that. Even Lukashenko knows that. Lukashenko was calling this already years ago. So, and you know that. Anybody watching this channel does. If you're some of these people that watch CNN, of course you don't know that. Anyway, but let's talk about a little bit about Australia. They've really gone to the dark side again. You know, I thought it was very bad, and a lot of you out there, and even there's a lot of Australians here in Belarus that came here mostly because of this medical intervention, you know, the shot in the arm, I guess you could say, and to get away from that kind of tyranny, and you know, that's going on in maybe even still in some countries. I keep hearing some reverberations about they're trying to get another pandemic going. I don't know. I don't discount that. But now they're, of course, anything that is, let me just say that in relation to Ukraine, everything that is from Ukraine gets into Australia duty-free. They just extended that again. So, you know, giving a leg up, I guess you'd say, to Ukraine over any other product. And they've also approved of a big military package right before this NATO summit. And, you know, Australia, NATO? I don't think so. But anyhow, they're a little bit too far away, but they may as well be in NATO. I don't know. I don't think they're part of NATO. That's strange. I never even thought about that, because they're not even in the Atlantic Ocean, anywhere close to it. But they're approving a package of 528 million, including an additional 408 million in military assistance, direct military assistance. But the 528, you know, it's probably, you know, a lot of that can go into somebody to buy some more houses and pass out amongst all the buddies and things like that. You know, that's the stuff that you can. Well, they'll do that. They'll do it with the military assistance too. As you know, it's not even accounted for. You know, but trust Ukraine. You know, they have a good accounting on where the money goes. So, and along with Ukraine, you know, this is just before the NATO summit, I'm saying, and there's a EU summit. I don't know. There's summits going on all over the place all the time, and I'll tell you what, if I was in government or something had some big cheese, I would just have a couple a year. That's enough, you know. The land of meeting, the world of meetings and meetings, and of course everybody gets paid for that. But in the Eurozone they approved a 3.5 million euro increase, or was it? Was that billion? 12 billion, but no, that was billion. 3.5 billion euro increase for Ukraine, and now that totals $12 billion. And you remember all these every 10 days, you know, what's his name was sending George or Biden. He was sending what, 350 million to Ukraine, but now, you know, we're talking with a B now with billions here. So a nice little cherry tree. So yeah, billions, it's incredible. And then Alex Cristoforo was also mentioning, I was going to mention this, I still have my notes. Matter of fact, this same notes, I was going to mention this 2 days ago about what's going on with the Orthodox Church, the official Orthodox Church. Not the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, I'm talking about the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is the real church. And as you know, the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, that was just a creation some years ago of the CIA and Poroshenko, and that was aimed against Russia, of course. Gosh, look at this, more cherries. Maybe I should sneak a cherry. Little one. These look sour. These I think are the sour ones here. A little bit sour. Anyway, let's see. But the Ukraine government now, in collusion with Germany, Italy, France, and the Vatican, are taking Vatican. I said that. Yes, Vatican. They're taking all the ancient Christian relics from the former Ukrainian Orthodox Church. You know, the one in Kiev, the main one. That's that monastery. And as I just mentioned, the new church. And if you remember, just not long ago, just some weeks ago, and a lot of time these priests, of course, to no avail, they were protesting. And Zelensky, his whole idea is to take everything that's gold and melt it down and of course use that money for Ukraine to kill Russians if they can. You know, the Russian Orthodox Church, actually, it's another name for that, but it's actually Ukrainian, but it's part of the Russian Orthodox Church. And to use that gold from these relics, hundreds of years old, melt them down, and then, you know, for weapons to kill Russians. Fantastic, huh? And then they were going to take he was going to take all the relics, the other relics that were not gold, and sell them to wherever, on whatever markets, black markets, I don't know. And, you know, there's a new thing now. It's about an UNESCO. And I wrote this down because this came out a little bit later. It was the UNESCO people are supposed to be trying to protect these relics. Where did I write that down? Maybe I didn't write that down. Well, oh, here it is. Yes. So anyway, they say they're going to take these relics to save them from the bombing of Russia, that Russia is going to bomb basically their own, as if, how many churches has Russia ever bombed? Zero? Zero. But what about Ukraine? I'll tell you what, a lot of these NATO things, you know, when I was watching this stuff from Syria, I don't know if the rest of you saw that, it's really terrible what they were doing to the churches. They were desecrating the churches and you know, defecating and all sorts of things, and what they would do to Christian girls and things like that. These so-called, I guess you could say they're NATO soldiers, at least paid by NATO, so-called supposed terrorists that all spoke English, British English and American English, a lot of them. And anyway, I don't want to talk about that some more. Some people running around here. I want to sit down somewhere. I'm going to sit down on the grass here. Okay, people, here we go. So I don't have to walk around. And yeah. But anyway, that's about all I really want to say about the church. You know, they're who knows if they're still going to melt it all down. And but the Vatican, as I think Alex Cristoforo, like I said, he was mentioning this. The Vatican stealing the relics from the Orthodox Church to put in the Vatican. And if any of you have ever been to the Vatican, you know, and you're thinking about this issue, and you start looking at these works of art all over the place. You know, the Sistine Chapel, of course, is part of the Vatican, and you know, and sure, I love the works of Raphael and Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci might even be in there too. But a lot of this stuff, and you know, and you also kind of wonder, well, what is all that stuff? Was that commissioned by the popes and all, or did they do like a lot of places like in England and France where they actually stole these things from other countries and brought them there? I don't know. I'm not going to accuse the Vatican Church of doing that, but it looks like that's what they're doing in this case. And so now let's talk about the attempted overthrow of the Belarusian government, which has not yet happened, which has actually, they've made a few attempts already on that. Some old lady's looking at me. And some new information has come out, and as you all know, there was some training going on, and of course there's a Polish general that said, yeah, we're training to overthrow the Belarusian government right now, and got some people in Ukraine, and I don't think he mentioned Poland, that they were actually training there, but of course Poland is heavily involved. You can assume that they're doing it in Poland because the government is all for this. They're very for this. All of those states over there are. And I start to wonder, well, what did Lukashenko ever do to the Baltic states or ever do to Poland? except trade with them. And I think we might even still be getting a lot of Polish products in here. You know, I can only guess at that kind of stuff. But anyway, this military unit, I guess the one in Poland is called GROM in big letters, I guess abbreviation, GROM, military unit. And of course, you know, you have some of the these sometimes opposition sponsored or just nasties that love that same ideology that's going on in Ukraine, and of course in Baltic states and some in Poland too. You know, they're in favor of that, and they want to come in, and I guess they're part of the training as well. But you have a lot of people in a lot of places now, because now it's in Lithuania too. So you have this GROM in Poland. You have the Security Services of Ukraine, as well as other units within Ukraine. As far as I know, they'd be training together. And there is, now it's called the, where was it? Lithuanian Riflemen's Union. They are also training for an overthrow of the Belarusian government. So really, really. And as you know, there's huge amounts of forces on the border, and they're building up even more. Poland is taking even more. I think what huge amounts of Patriots now they just recently ordered in the last day or two from the United States. I didn't write it down. I can't remember. I think it was it's like 50 sets, and as you know, Ukraine got 2. They probably actually got more, but on record I think they had two systems, which I don't know if that's 8 launchers or per system, or was it 4? I'm not even sure anymore. I kind of should know. I when I was in the military, our unit was moving into a unit where there used to be the Patriots, but I don't know. It didn't interest me anyway. Patriots are useless. It's just junk. They're just junk. Unless you're going against some goat herders in Syria or something like, I don't know. But they're mostly just junk. Matter of fact, the Patriots are used to ward off like missiles and airplanes and things like that. And goat herders normally they don't have airplanes, so I don't even know what use they are, and you know what the U.S. is used to fighting. You know, goat herders and school teachers and stuff like that with machine guns on the back of pickup trucks. I don't know if a Patriot is actually going to be useful in any of those kind of situations, to be honest with you. But yes. And also, as part of this, you also have to keep in mind that, you know, this Lithuanian Riflemen's Union, that it's very possible that a lot of this charge could be done through Lithuania. And normally it's Poland that wants to be the big shots now in the European Union and the world, which is very strange. The largest amount of money that goes into the European Union, of course, comes from Germany, and the biggest debtor, the biggest recipient, the biggest minus for the European Union is Poland. So in other words, Germany's making the money and it's getting all sent to Poland. So I don't know how Poland expects that they're going to be the big major military power and industrial power in Europe. I think it's partly because, you know, this pipeline. You remember the pipeline? I'm sure you do, Nord Stream. And this was destroyed. And just right after that, the very next day, or was it a day or so later, the pipeline between Norway and Poland was commissioned. So 2 underlying pipelines destroyed that belonged to Russia, and now a new one from Norway to Poland. You know, but of course the gas costs a lot more. Really kind of makes you wonder. I'll tell you what, if they were smart and, you know, and sneaky as they say they are, why didn't they build just huge natural gas storage facilities, much more? I mean, put them all over in different places so they can't get hit, and just store up all kinds of Russian fuel enough to last them 2 years. I don't know, underground, instead of just all of a sudden having this provocation against Russia. And now they're cut off, and I think Russia is even sending them. They're still sending them gas and oil. You know, I guess they're honorable. They honor the contracts, unlike people in the West. So, yeah, but so remember Tikhanovskaya. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, her home is in Lithuania. So that's why I'm kind of thinking maybe a lot of this charge, whenever that comes about, if it ever comes about, if they ever think they can do it, to try to overthrow militarily overthrow the Belarusian government. They tried to by illicit means. They were trying to, like I said, on last year on May 9th, they had planned to assassinate Alexander Lukashenko and his entire family. And the Russians found out about this plan. They arrested the people, so that one didn't work. Then just before that, they were trying to overthrow, and I'll tell you what, Europe has admitted they were trying to overthrow the Belarusian government in 2020 after the election. So, and Tikhanovskaya was supposed to be the puppet in charge, and she's a woman. She's been, I think her experience is housewife. I don't know if she's even ever had a job, to be honest with you. I just heard housewife, and she has no government experience, never was in charge of anybody or anything anywhere except maybe children. I don't know. I'm not saying that's a easy job or whatever, that, you know, it counts for something, but when you have a bunch of snakes and people trying to stab you in the back, your children aren't doing that normally. And in other words, she wasn't going to be in charge. She's just going to be a figurehead. So anyway, you guys all know that. And as you also know, all this stuff is going through the U.S. State Department, and you know, it's the dream of the neocons. You know, Victoria Nuland, girl with a dream. You know, she wants to kill or collapse Russia. And I'll tell you what, like I always say, Victoria Nuland, she's not one of the top leaders, but she is one of the instruments of the very top leaders. And Joe Biden is nothing but a frontman, as you know, he's not even an instrument. I don't even know how they're allowing him to run for president again, but you know, that's how that is. I guess because they don't have anybody else. They don't even, I don't know. Gavin Newsom. Everybody thought Gavin Newsom was going to be the guy picked. He still might be. He still might be. Don't. Hey, the election hasn't started yet, people. Let's see what happens. Victoria Nuland, as I said, she's financially backed and otherwise by George Soros. Let's just call George Soros a big neocon. As a matter of fact, like I was saying already before, it is truthful. It's very obvious, and you can connect 3 dots yourself. George Soros, he is the leader probably of this triumvirate, because on one hand he is a neoliberal, on the other hand he is a neoconservative. And look at his past. Look at his past. What did he do as a boy when he was on the side of the neo-Nazis in Germany in World War II? So all 3, the triumvirate, they all come together with this one man. But of course now he's handed over his empire, his Open Society Foundation, to his son, Alexander. I'll tell you, see, the reason why that ticks me off is I know that life will be definitely worse. Belarus has practically no resources. They don't even have a seaport. They're landlocked, a landlocked country. They have agriculture with a very short growing season. They do have industry. It's people resource. They don't have natural resources really. They have some fertilizer. They have some clean water. And those things are important, but they don't have any gold. They don't have any oil. They don't have anything. And yet Belarus society, economy is afloat. There's no extreme poverty here. I'll tell you what, crime is practically non-existent in Belarus. I can go on and on. I can go on and on. And I don't want to see that change. And I live in Belarus. I don't want to see that change. And Lukashenko, I can't say enough about Lukashenko. I remember back in the old days, back in 2003, that was before I moved over to into the Caribbean, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I remember when it made a trip to Bulgaria and saying how the Bulgarians, they like Lukashenko. And then we were in some place, I don't know if you call it a hotel. They rented a bunch of rooms. It was kind of a big building this family had, and they rented some rooms. I think I had 4 rooms. And there was a Ukrainian husband and wife there. And we were sitting with them, and they said, we wish we had a leader. That was even long before Poroshenko and all that. They said, we wish we had a leader like Lukashenko. I've heard that from so many people in the Eastern Europe. And back in those days, I'll tell you what, it started in the 90s, and everybody would say that. Everybody, even the Russians, they loved Lukashenko, like, you know. And then the US came up with this campaign, and they just kept on going. And I'll tell you what, and that's been going for like 40 years or longer. 40 years of disinformation PSYOP campaign against Lukashenko. And starting back in those days, I remember it was the Voice of America, and they were just broadcasting nonstop from Poland into Belarus and trying to, and I'll tell you what, apparently after all that time, it has had some effect, and you do have people, of course, that are anti-government here. So there is some effect when you just keep beating it and beating it and beating into people's heads, all of this propaganda and this lie stuff, you know, you get some people, and then that causes, of course, the government to react in certain ways. And then when something happens, they say, see, we told you he was a bad guy. He cracked down on these protesters. Just like all of them do. All governments do in every country in the world. You know, when you have these protests, and then especially when you have foreign agents. I mean, I'm not talking about Mike Jones. I'm talking about real foreign agents that are here to upset and to help overthrow governments. Look at Ukraine. Look at what they're doing to keep protests down. I tell you what, your days on earth are over if you protest against the government over there. So that's all I need to say about that. But for the most part, Lukashenko was always neutral. And there's never been any wars here. He's never been involved in any wars to, you know, not even this confrontation here, but he knows what's coming, and he knows that they're against him, but he does not allow a war to be launched from Belarus. He said no war will ever be launched from Belarusian soil. So anyway, this war is already launched, and if Belarus ever has to get into this, I would think it's justified. Lukashenko, if anything, he should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and he really deserves it. Not like Obama, who is probably the biggest warmongering president in U.S. history. Drone strikes killing children and stuff. And anyway, I don't want to get on. Maybe I should. I hope YouTube doesn't get me for that one. But anyway, anyway, he made agriculture big because that's the cards that was dealt to Belarus, is decent soils, flat areas, just so you can do agriculture here, and that was the best thing. And of course, production, building tractors and building trucks and things like that. And now there was cars built here before, I guess, in a smaller capacity, but now it's going to be bigger. I guess the Chinese are going to be coming here, and electronics are coming up more here a lot, and you know, things are going to be happening a lot more in Belarus, and a lot of this is keeping foreign investment away by this successful propaganda campaign that he's a brutal, tyrannical dictator. You know? And of course, he was going more and more into free speech, but then things got out of control in 2020. And you know, there's still free speech, but I'll tell you what, I think it was, how does it work? It's the university students whose education, by the way, is paid for by the government of Belarus. They are not allowed to badmouth the government. And that doesn't mean that they're going to throw you in jail right away, but you can lose your place in the university. You're going to get kicked out if you start talking bad about the government. Isn't that something? Biting the hand that feeds you. I guess that's what you'd call it. So, you know, and I sort of agree. Yeah, the whole idea of the West was to make Belarus really, really miserable. Look at every place the United States goes. Every place gets to be miserable. Iraq, Libya, Ukraine, you know, every place. I mean, you can probably come up with a lot more. But now, look at Vietnam is now recovered because they've shrugged off the United States. Yeah. But anyway, all of these states, you know, it's just like Russia, trying to surround Russia with hostile countries and governments, just the same as Belarus. You know, now it's a union state. But in the indoctrination, you know, I mentioned that already before. Poland is talking about how successful they are in this indoctrination, and I'm thinking what they're talking about is Belarus, because Not necessarily Poland. I don't think a lot of the Polish people, because they live under that government, I don't think that they're very happy with that government. A lot of them. But you know, talking to people in Belarus saying, hey, come on over here, the grass is greener on our side. You know how that works. Yeah, so. But the reason why they want to get rid of Lukashenko, and I'll tell you what, and you can see this all over the world. Any leader that cares more about their country than they do about the agenda or the ideology, and you know the ideology or ideologies and the agendas, you know that. And look at Trudeau. That's just one example. Look at Macron. Look at Olaf Scholz. And don't forget about the pipelines about that. Do you think these people care about their country? Do you think they care about their people? Annalena Baerbock, at least she's come out and admitted it. She cares more about the Ukrainians than she does about the Germans. And of course, if they ever got Ukraine, then she wouldn't care about the Ukrainians. She'd go on to the next one. I don't know, what was she in South Africa just recently, trying to try to get South Africa to arrest Vladimir Putin if he shows up for the BRICS summit here very soon. So apparently, I don't think anybody listens to Baerbock. I don't think the Germans do either. Makes you wonder what the heck she's doing there. Obviously, she's a plant. She's a plant from up above. You all see that. She's probably geared to take old Ursula von der Leyen's place. And I was thinking Ursula von der Leyen was going to take Stoltenberg's place. And now I think they've extended Stoltenberg's time in as the whatever the heck he is, of the chief puppet, the chief U.S. puppet of NATO. I think they've given him one more year. Maybe it's because there's too many people contending for that. Wallace from Great Britain. I'm sure Ursula von der Leyen really loves that one. She was already defense minister of Germany. Did a terrible job, terrible job, by the way, but you know, that's what they like. I guess it doesn't matter how good of a job you do. That doesn't matter anymore. Maybe it's more diversity and all kinds of other things are more important. Toeing the line and whatever your ideology you follow, those are the important things, baby. I was going to also mention about Viktor Orban. You know, he's coming up with the truth, and that's why they really want to get rid of Viktor Orban. As you see, they united all political parties in Hungary in the last election, all of them together to try to get rid of Viktor Orban, and he still won. He won against the combination of a huge concoction of political parties trying to get the vote. And as you know, George Soros, he comes from Hungary, doesn't he? He hates Orban with a passion. I'll tell you what, I'm hoping that Orban has some food tasters. You know how that is. Makes you wonder how a lot of these leaders, I guess you got to be really, really good to stay alive when you got some of these jackals after you. I tell you, that's really something. Yeah, like I said, they're looking for people, you know, to be loyal to the agenda and the ideology. You know, they don't want people that care about their people in their country. You know, that's somewhere down the line. You just have to talk like you do. But anyway, Stoltenberg was talking about the fragility of Germany. And all this, you know, shows that he needs to retire, which he meant Russia, of course. And Denmark now. Denmark is sending F-16s to Ukraine. But, you know, I'll tell you, in exchange for that, Denmark gets F-35s. So, I don't know if it's 1 for 1. So, it's like they get the stealth bombers. And of course, one of the requirements is that these will be ready with nuclear bombs. These F-35s are going to be nuclear bomb carrying F-35s. So surprise, surprise. And this is supposed to be finished. It was supposed to be done, I think, by the year 2027, this whole contract where, I don't know when the F-16s are going to be sent over to Ukraine. You know, they can send them at any time, but it was supposed to be by 2027 that Denmark gets a lot of these F-35s, but they've speeded that up now to 2025. And you know, we're more than halfway through the year now of 2023, so So we're talking about 18 months from now. 18 months from now, they're going to be getting nuclear carrying F-35s. And I can say something else about this too, about nuclear bombs and airplanes, based on my experience from being in the military. I had a friend, he was stationed on a, I don't know, maybe I should mention the base, Larbrook, a British military base, a British Air Force base in Germany. And one of his jobs was just the inventory of the nuclear bombs. Great Britain's nuclear bombs stored in Larbrook, which is an Air Force base. And when it was announced that Britain, I guess there was some initiative, and it was announced in world press, all of the nuclear bombs have been taken out of Germany. They've removed them all, at least the British at that time. And he said they still had them there. They didn't take out the nuclear bombs. Anyway, he paid to get out of the military early because of that. And I think he might have been a little bit concerned that it really wouldn't be his backside, his backside. You know, he was just an enlisted person, so anyway, it lets you know, gee, do you think that somebody in the leaders of the West were lying? They weren't lying. They don't lie. They always tell the truth. They always fulfill their agreements. They're always trustworthy. They all have a sense of honor. So anyway, what does that tell you? You know, it's the accelerated escalation escalator. They're accelerating this stuff. And I was mentioning earlier about all of these places. And I was saying also that, you know, they told the U.S. was pushing Georgia, which tries really hard to be a neutral country, a neutral government. They're pushing them real hard to try to get them to invade Abkhazia. And what a lot of people don't know is Russia, they do have a small military base in Abkhazia. I mentioned that, I believe. A lot of people think the only foreign military base of Russia is in Syria. Nah, that's not true. Of course, now in Belarus as well. But Abkhazia, they did have a small one. And I'm sure they have some small little offices in a few other places. Obviously, look at Transnistria. Who's guarding all these old bombs and things in Transnistria? Well, of course, it's Russians. And that's not part of Russia officially. So that just tells you. So it's... I'm not saying that Russia, because Russia is not saying they don't have military bases. You hear people that are pro-Russian in the West not quite actually telling the truth. So, but then again, Russia doesn't have a big military presence much of anywhere, so outside of their borders, just Syria. So that part of it is true, and these other ones are just. But if you want to get more technical on that, then the U.S. has actually far more military bases. I think over 1,000, then you could say very easily, because they got military presences in a lot of places. As a matter of fact, the country where I came from, before I came to Belarus, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a little island not so far from Venezuela. Well, guess what? The U.S. has military there, and it's not even declared. You won't find that anywhere listed anywhere. The U.S. has military there. I'll tell you, because it is the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard is part of the military of the United States, no matter what anybody says. Even if they wear white uniforms rather than BDU uniforms, that's part of the military of the United States. And they're involved in sending drones. I know that. They send drones from their ships to look around. This was back in the past, at least, some years ago, to see how things are going around in Venezuela. You know, yeah, help them out a little bit, as you know, just to do a little bit of reconnaissance there. So, like I said, NATO doesn't know when these F-16s even themselves are going to arrive in Ukraine, and they're probably not going to last too long when they get there. But according to Serbia, like I was talking about these overthrows that the U.S. Really wants in a lot of these other countries, and of course they're, Belarus obviously is a big one. They come right out and they admit that one, and they try to be a little bit coy with Serbia, but but they want a color revolution in Serbia. So they're trying to do it with protests. And of course, that was the main goal in Belarus, is to start this all off with protests and then go into military. So I don't know if they're just going to do it solely with protests in Serbia and try to overthrow the government that way. But like I was saying, and they want to start that way in Belarus and then move into a military overthrow. And that's what they're preparing for, starting with the protests. So don't be surprised, I'll tell you what, when you see this kind of stuff happening over here. And you might want to subscribe to my channel because I'll try to keep you informed about when that does happen, if it happens. I hope it doesn't happen. But if they're going to do that, I'll try to keep you informed about what I'm hearing about those sort of movements. I'm keeping you informed right now and ahead of time. So if you happen to have just come across this channel and YouTube accidentally sent it to you, then which would be an accident probably. They're not sending my channel out anywhere. I think I caught them off guard on Sunday. Probably less people were working, and I think more people saw my video when I released one on Sunday. So I should probably try to always release a video on Sunday, you know, if I want to get more subscribers. Of course, one of the most significant parts of the news coming out in the past couple of days is this Russian missile attack in Kramatorsk. And I think Ukraine is trying to say, oh, children died and things. I don't know. But what this really was, obviously, is this is like Russia says, this was a command center. This was a, what do we call it? Do we call it a foreign command center? Because these were foreign soldiers. And a lot of them were American, of course. The reports are saying the soldiers of the 75th Ranger Battalion were there, and the 101st Airborne. As you remember, not too long ago, the United States sent 101st Airborne to Romania. I guess a very significant number of them. So, and apparently these people were in uniform, some of them. And it's highly possible that they had family members, or it's highly possible, I don't know, that they had, of course, female members there too, but apparently there were some females in that area. I don't know. You know, how many died? It's probably going to be kept secret, and you never know if it's going to be accurate anyway. But like Scott Ritter said, they mobilized Black Hawk helicopters to rescue them and take them to various parts of Europe, to Germany and to Romania, I guess, where the 101st is at. Maybe it depends on how bad your injuries were. And it really makes you wonder, well, how is it that these Black Hawks are so close to the area? And of course they flew there with impunity. I guess they turned off their transponders so nobody could track them. And then they rescued these wounded people, apparently, or maybe even more than just wounded people. And then again, you have to ask yourself, well, if they're mercenaries, why would they be doing this for mercenaries? I'll tell you what, obviously, these are not mercenaries. These are regular soldiers, US soldiers, in uniform, wearing their patches. And of course, this sort of thing has been happening for quite some time, at least since 2014. And since I've been in the military myself, I've been in these types of units where you are actually involved before there's any war declared, conducting things. I didn't do it myself. No, but people in my unit did, and I've known people that did that. They're conducting activities long before there's any declared war, and they're doing reconnaissance work, all sorts of things. So I know this stuff. I don't know, Scott Ritter, I'm sure he should know this stuff. Maybe he's been involved in different aspects different aspects of military intelligence and all that I have been in. You know, I actually was a little bit more hands-on maybe than he was. So just so you know, I don't know if there's anything more to say about this. as you've now got the point. Look at that. See, there's a bag flying around. I told you, a bottle over here. There is, of course, also garbage on the ground in Belarus. I don't know what it is. Some people here in this area, I've been to many other places in Belarus. I mean, in Minsk, and they're fine. Even just right outside this area is good. But for some odd reason, we don't have people here in this area. Matter of fact, I think I've seen this guy. I think he's mentally handicapped a little bit. The guy that's probably supposed to be picking up garbage in this area. So anyway, people need jobs, so that's what that is. Anyway, I don't know. But back to the story. Stop sidetracking me. I don't think I have anything more to say about this, except that it's very obvious these were regular soldiers. These are not mercenaries. The U.S. has to just come forward and confess that they have soldiers there. These people, I think it was Scott Ritter even, he was saying, I think that these people are in a training capacity. They're training, they're advisors, or they're contractors, or whatever. I'll tell you what. Anyway, they're involved, and that's very obvious. That should be very obvious by now. The U.S. is heavily involved, again, heavily involved in the boots on the ground in Ukraine. So I didn't say they're totally involved, but they're heavily involved. Yes, they got people there. They've had it there. They've had people there for a long time, and you can figure that out yourself, you know, without even hearing any evidence. But that's about all I have to say for now, and thanks for joining me. And like I say, I'll be talking more about Belarus in the future if you want to hear more about this kind of stuff. And until the next one, thanks again, and bye-bye.